The office pulsed like a living organism wired to stimulants, glowing monitors, vibrating desks, voices overlapping in a symphony of self-congratulation. Coders in hoodies and fingerless gloves shouted about microservices and neural nets, while VR headsets dangled from charging stations like dormant cyborgs. Carlos moved among them like a shadow with purpose, grey uniform, worn boots, mop handle gripped with the quiet certainty of a man who knew his place, not because he was told it, but because he chose it. He wiped smudges off glass walls smeared with frantic diagrams. He emptied bins bloated with discarded energy cans and half-eaten protein bars. He swept beneath desks where million-dollar algorithms were born and died daily. No one greeted him, no one thanked him. To them, he was furniture, functional, invisible, replaceable. Until Kevin happened. Kevin didn't walk. He swaggered. 25, tousled hair, designer glasses that cost more than Carlos's monthly salary, and a voice engineered to dominate every room. He was mid-call, pacing near the snack bar, boasting about refactoring legacy systems in his sleep. He spotted Carlos mopping near his workstation, didn't slow down, didn't adjust his path. Instead, with theatrical flair, he tilted his electric blue energy drink and let a thick stream splash across the gleaming tile Carlos had just polished. "Whoops," he chuckled, not even glancing back. "Clean that up, Pops. Wouldn't want our VCs thinking we let dinosaurs handle hygiene." A few nearby devs snickered. One clapped sarcastically. Carlos didn't react, didn't sigh, didn't glare. He simply dipped the mop, wrung it with slow, rhythmic precision, and erased the stain as if erasing an insult written in water. His silence wasn't surrender. It was sovereignty, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself. Minutes later, the sky fell. Evelyn Vance stormed in like a hurricane in a tailored blazer, CEO, mid-30s, eyes sharp enough to slice through bullshit, hair pulled so tight it looked painful. She didn't greet anyone, didn't ask how their weekends were. She slammed a tablet onto Kevin's desk, hard enough to rattle his mechanical keyboard. "Bug Omega is back," she announced, voice low and lethal. "It's not just crashing servers, it's rewriting player inventories, erasing progress, turning leaderboards into abstract art." She scanned the room, gaze landing on Kevin like a targeting laser. 48 hours until global launch. Fix it, or I scrap the release, and your year-end bonuses go up in smoke. The air thickened. Kevin's smirk vanished. His fingers hovered over his keyboard like a pianist who'd forgotten the notes. What followed was beautiful, desperate chaos. Screens glowed through the night. Whiteboards became graveyards of failed logic, recursive functions spiraling into madness, dependency trees collapsing under their own weight, flowcharts that looked like subway maps drawn by sleep-deprived toddlers. Kevin paced like a caged wolf, barking orders, rewriting entire modules only to watch them combust under Omega's elegant sabotage. Junior devs passed out at their desks, faces smudged with marker ink and exhaustion. Coffee machines sputtered their last drops. Someone sobbed quietly in the server closet. The bug wasn't just code, it was sentient malice. It adapted, it mocked. It laughed at their frameworks, their containers, their cloud-native architectures. Kevin's arrogance cracked like cheap plaster. "It's impossible," he muttered, forehead pressed against his monitor. "No one's ever fully killed Omega, not even the old-school gods." Carlos watched, always watching. He refilled water coolers beside trembling coders. He wiped smudges from dual monitors, displaying cascading error logs. He lingered near the whiteboard during midnight snack runs, eyes tracing the frantic scribbles, nested loops, recursive nightmares, over-engineered solutions bloated with dependencies. He'd shake his head almost imperceptibly, not in judgment, in sorrow, like a master violinist hearing a child soar at strings with no sense of melody. He knew this bug, not from Stack Overflow, not from documentation, from memory, from battle, from the days when code was written in grit and compiled in silence. when debugging meant staring at green text on black screens for 14 hours straight, fueled by cold pizza and stubbornness. He remembered the scent of ozone from overheating terminals, the sound of dot matrix printers screaming victory, the weight of responsibility when failure meant grounded planes or crashed satellites, not just angry Reddit threads. He'd seen this exact pattern before, not in some GitHub repo, not in a textbook, in the core of a military satellite system in '84, back when RAM was measured in kilobytes and patience was the only debugger that mattered. Omega wasn't a glitch. It was a ghost, a recursive anomaly born from conflicting memory pointers that modern garbage collectors couldn't touch because they were too busy optimizing for scale, not for soul. Carlos had slain it once, with a single line, elegant, surgical, forgotten. Evelyn returned at 3 a.m., eyes bloodshot, suit wrinkled, lipstick smudged. "Status," she demanded. Kevin stood, voice hoarse. "We've tried everything. Quantum threading, neural debuggers, even reverse engineered the original 2003 kernel. Nothing sticks. Omega adapts faster than we can patch." Evelyn's face went pale. "Then you've failed." She turned to leave, then paused. "If this isn't fixed by dawn, I'm pulling the plug, and you're all looking for new jobs." The silence that followed was heavier than server racks. Kevin collapsed into his chair, head in hands. One intern sobbed quietly. Another stared blankly at a half-eaten protein bar. Hope had flatlined. Despair had moved in. Comfortable, smug, Carlos waited until the last whimper faded, until the only sounds were the hum of servers and the drip of a leaky faucet in the break room. He rolled his cart to the edge of the coding pit, parked it neatly beside a wilting fern. He removed his gloves, smoothed his coveralls, walked to the central whiteboard, the sacred altar of their failed genius, and picked up an eraser. With slow, deliberate strokes, he wiped away Kevin's masterpiece. A sprawling equation that looked like mathematical vomit. Then in clean, confident script, he wrote one line. Just one. No comments. No annotations. A single command in a language most of them had never seen outside a museum exhibit. COBOL. Elegant, minimal, brutally efficient. It wasn't magic. It was memory, precision, experience distilled into syntax. He stepped back, studied it, nodded once, then returned to his cart, pulled out a fresh mop head and began polishing the baseboards near the emergency exit. As if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just rewritten their fate with the calm of a man who'd faced dragons before breakfast. Sunrise painted the skyline in gold and rose when Kevin stumbled back in, fueled by rage and 3 Red Bulls. He headed straight for the whiteboard to erase his shame, and froze. His eyes locked onto the single line of code. His breath hitched. What is this?" he whispered. He squinted, read it again. Recognition flickered, then disbelief. No way, that's from the '85 patch notes, the original Omega fix, but that's impossible. The syntax is archaic. The compiler doesn't even... He didn't finish. He sprinted to his terminal. Fingers flew. He typed the line, hesitated, hit enter. The screen blinked, then cleared. All error logs vanished. The system diagnostics flashed green. Leaderboards repopulated. Save files restored. Bug Omega eradicated. Not patched, not contained. Gone, as if it had never existed. Kevin stared, mouth open, heart hammering. Who did this?" he croaked. The team gathered behind him, eyes wide, breaths held. Someone checked the security feed, rewound to 4:17 a.m. There he was, Carlos, moving with unhurried grace, erasing their chaos, writing salvation in a forgotten tongue. The room erupted in gasps. That's the janitor? No, that's not possible. Run his name, full name, now. A junior dev, Maya, typed frantically. Carlos Mendez, wait. Her screen filled with search results. She clicked the top link, a digital archive, scanned magazine cover, 1985, Byte magazine, bold headline, The Omega Slayer, How Carlos Mendez Tamed the Untamable Bug. Below it, a black and white photo of a young man. Sharp eyes, confident smile, sleeves rolled up over muscular forearms, standing beside a tower of floppy disks. The article detailed how he debugged the original Omega in 72 hours using pure assembly and intuition, saving a billion-dollar aerospace project from collapse. He'd walked away from fame, disappeared after refusing to patent his fix. Wanted to teach, the quote read, not profit from panic. He tried academia, found it bloated with politics, took a job maintaining university servers, then high schools, then this startup, because he liked the energy, the chaos, the potential. He never stopped coding, just stopped needing credit. Silence, thick, reverent, awkward. Kevin's face cycled through shock, shame, awe. Evelyn stood in the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Then she clapped, once, twice, and the room followed. Applause built, not polite, not performative, raw, grateful, overwhelmed. Carlos entered at that moment, pushing his cart, humming softly. He stopped mid-step, looked around, saw the standing ovation, saw Kevin approaching, head bowed, hands trembling. "Senor Mendez," Kevin said, voice cracking, I owe you an apology and thank you, you saved us." Carlos studied him, not with triumph, not with vengeance, with kindness. "Sometimes," he said gently, "the simplest solutions are the first ones we forget." He patted Kevin's shoulder, then walked to the coffee station, refilled his thermos, and returned to mopping the hallway. The team watched him go. No one spoke, no one dared. The arrogance had been scrubbed away, not by failure, but by humility, by the quiet power of competence that asks for no spotlight. That morning, Evelyn sent a company-wide memo, effective immediately. Carlos Mendez is senior technical advisor. Salary, triple his current rate. Office, corner suite, janitorial duties, optional. He declined the office, kept the mop, said he liked the rhythm of cleaning, liked seeing things made whole again. Months later, the game launched, broke records, won awards. Kevin gave a keynote, mentioned Carlos by name, called him the soul of our success. At the after-party, someone asked Carlos why he never revealed himself. He smiled, stirred his tea. "Pride blinds faster than bugs corrupt. Sometimes people need to break before they see clearly." He paused. "And sometimes they just need a clean floor to stand on while they rebuild." But the story doesn't end there. One rainy Tuesday, a new intern, cocky, fresh out of MIT, already correcting senior devs in Slack threads, cornered Carlos near the vending machines. "Hey, Mr. Mendez, I read about you. The Omega thing, legendary. But why are you still mopping? You could be CTO somewhere, retire on a beach. Why stay here?" Carlos didn't answer right away. He studied the intern, the sharp blazer, the Apple Watch, the hunger in his eyes for validation. "You ever fix a bug?" Carlos finally said, "by deleting 10,000 lines of code and replacing it with 3. The intern blinked. No, that sounds risky." Carlos nodded. "Most people think complexity equals intelligence. That more code means more brilliance, but truth? Complexity is often fear dressed up as progress." He popped open a soda. "I mop because it's honest work, because flaws don't lie, because sometimes the most revolutionary act is choosing peace over prestige." The intern stared, then slowly nodded. I think I get it." Carlos smiled. "Good. Now go fix that memory leak in Module 7 and skip the nested loops. They're just showing off." The cameras still roll in that office, but now, when Carlos walks by, coders stand, not out of obligation, out of reverence. Kevin brings him coffee every morning, black, no sugar, just how he likes it. Evelyn keeps a framed copy of that 1985 Byte cover on her desk. Underneath she wrote, "Genius wears many uniforms. Wisdom doesn't announce itself. It waits and watches, and when the time is right, it mops." New hires get a tour. They're shown the whiteboard, still preserved behind glass, with Carlos's single line of code etched beneath it. They're told the story, not as legend, as lesson. The smartest person in the room, Evelyn tells them, isn't always the loudest. Sometimes they're the one cleaning up your messes, literally. Carlos still arrives at 6 a.m., still hums while he works, still knows every squeaky floorboard, every flickering light, every coder's coffee order. He mentors quietly, leaves printouts of elegant solutions tucked under keyboards, slips debugging tips into discarded sticky notes. No fanfare, no credit, just competence, radiating like warmth from an old radiator. And sometimes, late at night, when the office is empty and the city sleeps, you'll find him at a terminal. Not the fancy curved ones, but the old backup station in the server room. Screen glowing green, fingers flying, writing something new, something beautiful, something no one will see for years, maybe decades, until the next Omega rises, until the next generation breaks, until they're ready to listen. He doesn't do it for glory, doesn't do it for money. He does it because code, like cleaning, is about restoring order, about making broken things whole again, about leaving spaces, digital or physical, better than he found them. He's seen empires of silicon rise and fall, watched languages become relics, watched egos crash harder than servers. He knows what lasts isn't the loudest framework or the trendiest syntax. It's clarity, it's simplicity. It's the courage to strip away noise until only truth remains. One evening, Evelyn found him at his terminal, screen filled with elegant, minimalist functions. "Still coding, Carlos?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe. He didn't turn. "Always." She hesitated. "You could lead this company. You know that, right?" He chuckled softly. "Leadership isn't a title. It's what you leave behind in people." He saved the file, stood, stretched. "I've led classrooms, led teams, led projects that changed industries. Now, I lead by example, quietly, consistently. That's enough." Evelyn nodded, didn't argue. She'd learned not to. The intern started calling him Sensei Carlos, not to his face, but in Slack threads, in hushed tones during crunch time. What would Sensei do became their mantra. They stopped writing bloated code, started valuing readability over cleverness, began leaving their workspaces clean, keyboards dusted, cables coiled, trash emptied, not because HR mandated it, but because they'd seen what happened when you ignored the person holding the mop. Kevin changed too, became quieter, more observant, started asking questions instead of asserting answers. Took Carlos to lunch every Friday, not at fancy sushi places, but at the little taqueria down the street where the owner knew Carlos by name and always gave him extra guac. "You ever think about writing a book?" Kevin asked once, halfway through his third taco. Carlos wiped his mouth. "Books get outdated, lessons don't." He pointed his fork at Kevin. "You want to honor me? Teach someone else what I taught you. Pass it on. That's how legends live." And so Kevin did. He started mentoring juniors, not with flashy tech demos, but with stories. Stories about humility, about listening, about the janitor who saved them all. He made them read old manuals, debug on paper, write code without autocomplete. "Strip it down," he'd say, "until it hurts, then strip it more. That's where the magic is." Years passed. The startup became a tech giant. Offices expanded. Stock options made millionaires. But in the heart of the original building, preserved like a shrine, stood the old janitor's cart, now mounted on a pedestal beside the glass-encased whiteboard. Tour guides point to it. That's where wisdom parked, they say. New engineers touch it for luck before big launches. Carlos retired last spring. Quietly, no party, no farewell speech, Just a note left on Evelyn's desk. The floor is clean. The code is stable. I'm proud of you all. And a small USB drive labeled, "For when you forget simplicity." They plugged it in during their next crisis, inside a folder named Omega V2, and beneath it a single text file. One line of code. Elegant, minimal, brutally efficient, and a note. You don't need me. You never did. You just needed to remember. The ovation that followed echoed through 3 floors. Never judge a mind by the uniform it wears. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that greatness doesn't shout, that wisdom whispers, that the quietest person in the room might hold the loudest truth, then you belong here. Subscribe to Top Life Stories, because the most powerful legends aren't written in headlines. They're written in humility, in patience, in the courage to serve without seeking applause. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications. The next story might just change how you see the person standing beside you, mop in hand, eyes full of galaxies you never knew were there.